Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, live on CBS Sports Network, continuing to take you inside the matchup of these massive college football playoff first-round games on campus. And those last two words, on campus, they feel incredibly significant when we look at this next one, which is SMU going to play Penn State. And Penn State home games have been one of college football's great special environments. This is a fan base that has been yearning to make it to the college football playoff. James Franklin, their head coach, among the winningest head coaches of the playoff era, who prior to this day has yet to be in a college football playoff game. So we're going to have cold temperatures for the ponies from Texas. But what about the football of it all? So, Bud, take me inside what you're looking for from Penn State in terms of what they need to do to hold serve against SMU.
Sure. So I think Penn State will probably continue to go at a pretty slow pace, although they did show a little more pace there against Oregon in that Big Ten championship game. Penn State is looking to pop explosive runs thanks to its motion and shifts they're going to do with Andy Kotelnicki's offense. And I think they have a pretty good chance to pop them, actually, because SMU is very aggressive on defense, both in terms of their blitz percentage, but also in terms, man, like they're in scream out field. And I think there is some chance that Penn State is able to kind of wall them and get them pinned and just hit some creases here against this SMU defense. But Penn State is not a very good team when they're behind the chains because their drop back game is not particularly strong. So if SMU is successful in getting some of those early tackles for loss, then I think SMU has a real shot to win the game, but probably easier said than done. I don't know that I love the matchup here for SMU's defense against what Penn State wants to do offensively.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see from Penn State and Andy Kotelnicki is they're going to hit the Tyler Warren button, and they're going to hit it often. If you've watched SMU defensively this season, they have struggled to contain tight ends pretty much all season long. And Tyler Warren won the Mackey Award, but he's not really just a tight end. He's a center. He's a quarterback. He's a running back. He's a wide receiver. He does everything for this offense, and they keep giving him more and more because every time they put more on his plate, he handles it with aplomb and plays well. And I think that when you factor in also that Bo Pribula, their backup quarterback, has entered the transfer portal and is no longer on the team, and he was a part of their red zone package, particularly as an added rushing threat, we're going to see Tyler Warren take a lot of those snaps that they were giving Pribula, and they'll probably see him put him in similar situations. So I look at this matchup. I think he'll have a big game. And I also think that, Bud, you mentioned it, like they're going to be able to hit big plays. But I also think it's going to be somewhat of a just chiseling away. Like if you look, they've got Nick Singleton, 225 pounds, Katron Allen, 220 pounds, Tyler Warren's 265. This SMU defense has been good up front, but once you get past that defensive line, it's not a lot of big bodies. And it's not a lot of guys who are going to have a lot of fun trying to tackle these huge dudes in the cold where it is never fun to tackle somebody. So I think as this game wears on, Penn State is just going to keep leaning on them and leaning on them. And then in the second half, you're going to start to see a lot of those explosives start hitting and Penn State possibly pull up here.
I don't even want to say this out loud because he'll run with this and he'll use this against me forever. But I talked to Yogi Roth in Indianapolis when we went on the field before the game. And Yogi Roth's been covering the Big Ten. And I was asking him about, the teams. And he's like, Oregon realized doesn't matter who you're playing, the pounding that you take in the Big Ten because of the bigger body style, because of that pounding, it starts to wear on you. And I totally agree with you, Tom, that is what concerns me the most. And if I just saw, and I get that SMU is one of the better rush defenses in the country, but I don't think they've been tested against a front like this, an offensive line, or a tight end that is a kind of a gadget player who can also run the ball out of the backfield, and a two-headed monster like Katron Allen and Nick Singleton back there, who both rushed for 100 yards plus against Oregon's defense, who is, I think, one of the better defensive fronts out there. And you went right through them. So that is my biggest fear for SMU, is that they are just going to be hanging on by a thread, and that those body blows, which Penn State will be delivering throughout the game, ultimately will be too much for them to handle. So I think that's the biggest matchup for me. I think SMU will figure out a way to put up points against Penn State's defense, and maybe I actually think Graham's game script, it could play out similar to the ACC championship game, where you kind of get down, but I don't think they'll be able to stop Penn State throughout 4 quarters. Like, I just think Penn State will keep pulling away. SMU might put up some points when they finally figured out, and Kevin Jennings, you get some yards after the catch from some of the guys in space. I just worry that those body blows are going to be too much when it's all said and done.
Yeah, Danny, we can't count out SMU. I mean, there's a resilience that was shown there where the idea that this game is ever going to be over, it seems highly unlikely. Sorry, Bud, do you have something you wanted to add?
No, I do think, just like to throw back to this game that we had last year, Kansas versus Illinois. Same offensive coordinator for Kansas now, Andy Kotelnicki. Illinois, their D-line up the field very fast, very aggressive. They want to play a lot of man coverage. Kansas ate in that game, and that's kind of how I think this could play out if Drew Aller plays well enough. Because, obviously, Daniels for Kansas that day played exceptionally well.
All right, well, we will get into the Friday night action up in snowy South Bend, Indiana, taking you inside the matchup of Indiana against Notre Dame and more next.